My name is Fred Blackwell. I am the director of the San Francisco Redevelopment Agency, and it is my distinct pleasure this morning to welcome all of you to the groundbreaking for Hunter's View. Some applause or something. I'm halfway joking, but for me, this is a very exciting day, which is why I wanted everybody to applaud. My agency is one of literally dozens that has been working under the leadership of the mayor and the Board of Supervisors to get us to this point today, and that will continue working to get both Hunter's View to the finish line and to get Hope SF to the finish line. This project, the revitalization of Hunter's View, is about much more than just housing. It is about the rejuvenation of this neighborhood and the creation of opportunity for folks who have had to live through years of disinvestment and neglect. We have spent a lot of time as the city making sure that this is not just a development that occurs and revitalizes the physical aspects of this community, but we have put a lot of blood, sweat, and energy into making sure that each one of the people who lives here now has the opportunity to live here when the newly refurbished and bright and shiny new houses are here in the future. And we collectively are 110% committed to that goal. There are a number of things that we have done in very practical ways in order to get to that goal. We are phasing the development of this development to make sure that people do not have to move off-site during the revitalization process. We are replacing every public housing unit at Hunter's View, and on top of that, adding new affordable housing and market rate housing on site. We have gone through great lengths to make sure that folks who were behind in rent or had other issues got those issues corrected so there were not any barriers in the way of making sure that folks were able to move back in once we had these units revitalized. And so I just wanted to say that. In a minute, I'm about to introduce the people to you who have spent plenty of political capital, human capital, and monetary capital to get us to this point and to get us to where we need to be. But I just wanted to say one thing before I step down and introduce the mayor. One thing that people may not remember is that the mayor's first department head meeting was at this site when he became mayor. And the idea here was to send a message that this would not just be an administration that tended to the potholes in the streets, but one that tended to the people who had been locked out of opportunity in this city. And he pointed out to all of the department heads here that everybody had a responsibility to make sure that the things that were happening in the past would not happen in the future, and that we would spend all of our energy trying to make sure that everybody had the opportunity to have the same living conditions in this part of the neighborhood that were experienced in the western part of the city. And so it is, I think, with great pleasure and pride that we can stand here today and say, and I know one of the things I heard the mayor whisper when he sat down and said, it's about time. It is about time, but we're here. And it is in no small part due to the fact that the mayor has pushed us. Before going there, I just wanted to introduce and point out a few people who are in the audience today. One who I just saw walk down the aisle, Ms. Espinola Jackson, is here. She has spent many years pushing for this kind of stuff to happen. Commissioner, the president of the Redevelopment Commission, Rick Swig, is here this morning. Commissioner Gans is here. BART Director Lynette Sweet. The Enterprise Foundation, who has spent a lot of time behind the scenes advising us and giving us support, is here today in the form of Rich Gross. Supervisor Duffy is here this morning. Pastor Toyena is here this morning. I see many department heads. I see Trent Rohr is here. I know in the audience is Henry Alvarez, who's the director of the Housing Authority. I apologize if I left anybody off, but without any further ado, let me introduce the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. There are a lot of folks here. Thank you all very much for taking the time, and thank you, Fred, for all your stewardship through this process and your hard work, and to all the residents up in Huntersview. We are particularly grateful for your patience and your understanding through this process. The most challenging thing was trying to convince people up here that we not only meant business, but that we were going to do business differently, that we were going to respect the residents, we were going to respect the neighborhood, we were going to respect a process of inclusion and engagement, and that our promises would be kept, that we weren't here just to make a lot of bold pronouncements, but that we were going to follow through. One of the things that Fred just referenced that is a reminder to me that was a big issue for us is we said, all right, we're going to move you back into these units when they're all built. We're not going to displace you during the construction. We'll ask that perhaps if you're in one unit, if you can move to another unit so we can phase in the redevelopment of the site, but you have to be current on your rent. And it was that, but you have to be current on your rent, that became a major issue that highlighted the challenges we had up here because the vast majority of folks had some issues there. Some folks were doing everything they could to keep current, but other folks were struggling. And we had to create a framework to deal with that issue before we could even process the other issues. And we engaged a lot of community partners throughout the city. And it's a long-winded point of saying this, that there are literally a dozen city agencies that helped us through this process. Not just the redevelopment agency, not just the mayor's office of housing, not just the housing authority, but the health and human service teams in the city, Department of Public Health, Human Service Agency. That's why Trent Rohr is here, and that's why representatives from the Department of Public Health are here. We engaged folks out in the community that looked at the totality of issues, the underlying issues were up here, and started to engage families in a more dynamic way through the great work that Dwayne Jones is doing through Communities of Opportunity, and got more holistic. I know that word, but more holistic in terms of our approach to addressing some of the challenges up here. I have probably been here, I kid you not, since I've been mayor 50, 60 times. I come up here, some of the residents know, just aimlessly sometimes, just on my own when I have a little extra time, and I'll walk around, and most of the time I just get a little more depressed and frustrated because the lack of progress. And so I wasn't kidding when Fred overheard me saying to Supervisor Maxwell that it's about time, because it is about time. It's about 50 years overdue. Let's just be candid. This was a project that was originally conceived in 1956. And here we are a half century later, and we're finally at a point where real progress can be seen. Progress is not just being idealized, it's being manifested in a meaningful way. But we get it. Everyone gets it. No one is denying the obvious that this is all that it takes to completely revitalize and reconstitute a community. Quite the contrary. We know that. We know that we have a lot of work to do. And this is just one component of that overall strategy to begin to revitalize Bayview Hunters Point and other parts of our city. Remember, this is the first phase, Hope SF. This is the first project, Huntersview, of what will be 8 projects that locally we're taking responsibility for. There are no other cities that we know of, and we have traveled the country, and we have looked at best practices that are engaging in this type of effort at this level. This is federal housing. This is the federal government's responsibility. This is the responsibility of folks in Washington, D.C. This is the manifestation of their neglect over half a century. And it's no longer good enough, I think you'd agree with me, just to point fingers and talk about the way the world should be and elect a new congressional representative or a new president, because, candidly, it doesn't always necessarily materialize in order of magnitude change. And so we got to take responsibility ourselves. And that's what Supervisor Maxwell and I did in, I think it was 2006, Supervisor, and we said, all right, here we go again, but let's put together a focused task force. And let's assess what we need to do to step in where the federal government has stepped away. Hope 6 worked in the 90s. Speaker Pelosi delivered hundreds of millions of dollars to the city and county of San Francisco, but that money dried up during the Bush administration. The Obama administration has tried to jumpstart a little bit of it, but it's just a little bit. And the deferred maintenance got bigger and bigger, hundreds of millions of dollars of deferred maintenance. So what were we going to do? Continue to pass resolutions, hold hearings, have candlelight vigils, again, yell and scream, talk about the way the world should be? We decided we'll do something different. And that was the purpose of this focused work group that we put together. And what we did next shocked a lot of people. Supervisor Dufty is here for a reason, because he led on this with Supervisor Maxwell on the Board of Supervisors. We put up $95 million. Just tell me there's a city in the country that's ever done this. We put up $95 million of city money, and we said we're going to shift it over to the Housing Authority to jumpstart this new strategy that came out of that work group, Hope SF. We then went out and we started building partnerships. John Stewart Company. We started building partnerships with Ridgepoint. We started building partnerships with Divine and Gong, and building partnerships with San Francisco Foundation and other organizations. And we started cobbling together some money. How many trips, Doug Shoemaker, did we make to Sacramento to get those Prop 1C dollars? Where we were able, because, and I'll say this, he deserves credit, maybe it's good to have a friend who is the chief of staff to the governor. Thank you, Susan Kennedy. Thank you, Governor Schwarzenegger. We were able to pull about $40 million down from those statewide bonds. That money was dried up. That money wasn't coming our way. If you had any idea how difficult it was to get that, but how critical it was to get that, I think you'd appreciate the point I'm trying to emphasize. But that was just $40 million. We came up with a portion of our 95 for this project, but we're going to do Sunnydale. We're going to do Potrero. We're going to do West Side Courts. We're going to get to the other projects. We want to make sure we distribute those dollars, not just all up here, but elsewhere. And then we had to go out and we had to work with our speaker again. And she was able to get us a $1.4 million direct contribution. We don't call them earmarks, congressionally directed appropriation or investment. That helped us move to the next phase. And then we were able to leverage the stimulus money. And to some of my friends at Fox News, here's a stimulus program that's working. The work that's being done, the construction that's undergoing, is because of that stimulus. $6 million that we drew down on the stimulus. Additional $1 million that Fred and the team at redevelopment cobbled together. So that's where we are. Those are actual numbers. You add them up, it's a down payment, because we're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars to revitalize these units. But it's an important down payment that's got us moving and will allow us to fulfill our promises. 260 units will be replaced. 267 units will be replaced. Hundreds of additional units will be built with the highest level of green building standards. We will be focusing on creating jobs for residents here at Hunters View. Already 24 have been hired for the first phase demolition. A dozen others from the immediate surrounding area. We're exceeding everybody. I mean, we had a lot of people, these bars, they're always too low, and we had a high bar, and they said you'll never reach it, and we actually have exceeded it. Key is to keep people still working. Challenge is once you finish one phase, folks then get a little frustrated, said, I got to get back. All right, we're going to keep moving. So we know we still have a lot more work to do. And that was, again, a promise that we made, Supervisor Maxwell, myself, and others, that we would create those real job opportunities for folks living here on the site and in Bayview Hunters Point proper, within the zip code of Bayview Hunters Point. And we will continue to fulfill that commitment. So I hate to be so long-winded, except I'm really proud of this. I don't think you all appreciate that there are a few things I appreciate more as mayor than the progress we're finally making here on this project. And I'll close with this. Fred was right. The first department head meeting I had was here. It was the first day that I got sworn in. I did the disaster council because I know there's going to be an earthquake. I always thought there was when I was going to be mayor. So you're going to want to get me out of here because I still am nervous about that. 72hours.org. please go on the website and prepare. And the second meeting was I got everyone in the office in room 200, all these fancy folks like Fred and Doug have been around all these years. And they all went upstairs, said, here we go again, a new mayor. And, you know, guys like this one come and go. Last 2 out of 3, they reminded me, were one term, so probably be a one term. So we'll wait them out. And they all went around that fancy table, room 200. And then I said, put down your BlackBerries and your cell phones. And I had 2 buses right outside. They had no idea I was doing this. And I didn't tell them where we were going because I figured they'd start calling their folks, and DPW would show up and everything would be swept up, and folks at the Housing Authority would be out there replacing light bulbs, and the folks at Muni would be replacing bus shelters within a nanosecond because they didn't want to be embarrassed. So I didn't tell them where we're going. We finally got up here and went to the basketball court. And that was the court I went up during the campaign, and all these residents saying, oh, yeah, you're running, yeah, whatever, we'll never see you again, another one of those politicians. And I said, I'll be back. And they kept challenging, kept coming back, and they kept saying, yeah, sure, sure, sure. The time, it was so bad, the basketball courts had bullet holes in them, and they had rusted because no one even dared waste the time replacing the backboards. Forget the nets. They had been gone for years. And we went out, and it wasn't, Fred was saying potholes, but I remember there were some institutionalized potholes out here. I mean, they hadn't been even, no one had indulged in trying to fill them for years. And I talked about the light bulbs. 90% of the lights had either broken or been shot out, and no one even dared replace them. Folks weren't coming up here at night from the department, so they had no real understanding or appreciation. Right there, West Point, Middle Point, we had all this violence, just right in the same corner. Every single weekend it seemed like there was something going on. The Muni bus stop, I mean, it was comical. It had been smashed through and for years. And so I didn't say a word, and Fred was right. Everyone walked around, and they said, all right, we get it. We started, then we did that basketball tournament up here. We did it right there in the courts, and one up there. And and his son beat me. He won $2,000. Well done, brother. And the whole idea, people said, it's just a basket. Is that his solution to Bayview Hunters Point? Just a basketball tournament? He doesn't get it. And I don't think they got, the whole idea was to give people a sense that, you know, we were trying to do things differently. And I kept saying, give us time, be a little patient. No one was particularly enthusiastic about the notion of patience because they've been patient for half a century. But I said we'll eventually get there. And so we're here, and we, again, mean business. And this is real progress. Will take a number of years to fulfill the vision out here. But you're all a big part of it, and I'm very proud to be part of this effort with you, and very thankful that all of you have given us this opportunity. And again, I will end as I began by thanking the residents. Would not be here without you and your support. And I look forward to engaging you and others with questions. We got a few more people coming up in a moment, and spending a lot more time out here as we monitor the progress. Supervisor Maxwell, I know how proud you are today as well. Thank you for everything you have done. Speaker Pelosi, Supervisor Dufty, the whole team, job well done. And Henry Alvarez, it is a new day at the Housing Authority in San Francisco. Thank you all.
So next I want to invite Supervisor Maxwell to say a few words. But just before that, I just want to mention one thing about the supervisor. The mayor has been pushing us to make this happen. And while he also, I'm sure, wants to make it happen right, it has been Supervisor Maxwell who I can personally attest to the fact that every time I step in her office, she is grilling me about the phased development and everything that we're doing to make sure that the folks who are here now will be the folks who will be here when it's done. And so I want to introduce Supervisor Maxwell as the person who is holding all of us accountable for what we promised.
Well, there are a lot of people here. Well, thank you all for coming, and I especially want to thank the mayor. I really want to thank him for his diligence and his commitment. And I also want to say that this investment that we're making is an investment in San Francisco. The investment we make in the people here and in the housing here, this is what San Francisco should be about. This is what the city of St. Francis should do. All of you who are doing this, thank you very much. But you are also doing, and you're responsible for everybody that lives here. San Francisco, the Bayview Hill, and Nob Hill should not be so different. To think that they're in the same city, you could not believe it. When it rains, it's like being in Louisiana, Katrina sometimes up here. You can't get out of the front door, and you can't get out of the back door. And that's something that should not happen in San Francisco, and that's something that will no longer happen in San Francisco. So I want to thank everybody, and especially the residents. Do all that you can, because we are going to do our part. Our city is going to step up to the plate and make everything that we should be available to residents. And you have a responsibility to take advantage of that. Make sure your children go to school in the morning. Make sure that whatever services you need, that we know about it so that we can give them to you, because that's what cities should be about. We're investing in our residents. We're not doing anything for you. We're doing something that we should do as a city and as a family together. So again, I want to thank everyone for being here. This is a long road to hoe, but we're on our way. And just imagine 10 years from now, we won't even remember this. We won't even remember when Hunters Point had the reputation and the name that it has. And it's not the people, but it's the city who neglected it and who made that happen. Well, we're no longer doing that, so it's going to be a wonderful place to live. In fact, I think I want that one right there. Thank you.
Next, who is here for your Speaker of the House of Representatives, who not only has had the courage and the leadership to pass health care reform, but also has been a champion for Hope SF generally and the work that we're doing here at Hunter's View. District Director Dan Burnell.
Thanks, Fred. Good morning, everybody. What a day, huh? This is very, very exciting. Speaker Pelosi wishes more than anything that she could be here with you today, but unfortunately could not. But she's been working with Mayor Newsom and with Supervisor Maxwell, Supervisor Dufty, Supervisor Brown before, over the many years to turn Hunters Point into a place that is clean and safe and revitalized and will have a thriving community for San Francisco. It's San Francisco's newest community. And while she could not be here today to speak, she did ask me to share some words with you, which I'll read now. Dear friends, thank you to Mayor Gavin Newsom, Supervisor Sophie Maxwell, and all of you for inviting me to be a part of today's Hunters View groundbreaking ceremony. Hunters View is the first project of Hope SF, a bold initiative that leverages federal Hope 6 money and is poised to become a national model. I am proud to have secured nearly $1.2 million in federal funding for Hunters View to support the demolition of dilapidated units and the construction of this 600-unit mixed-use, mixed-income community in Hunters Point. The U.S. House of Representatives has partnered with President Obama to address our nation's need for affordable housing. President Obama has said, "We will measure our success by the progress that is made by America's working families." Today's groundbreaking is about the never-ending effort to put our economy on the road to recovery, create jobs, and establish the building blocks for growth in the long term. Our nation's leaders have a responsibility to give every American the opportunity to recover, to thrive, to reap the rewards of our common progress, and to take part in our prosperity. Under the leadership of Chairman Barney Frank, Congress is helping working families to secure the affordable, safe, and energy-efficient homes they deserve. In 2008, the House passed the Hope 6 Improvement and Reauthorization Act, which improved and invested $800 million in the highly successful Hope 6 program. This legislation requires one-for-one replacement of all public housing units, developing mixed-income housing on the site of the original public housing, and building all replacement housing in accordance with the national green communities. In the 2010 federal budget, Congress worked with President Obama to more than double the Hope 6 funding to $250 million to transform neighborhoods of extreme poverty into sustainable mixed-income neighborhoods through the demolition of severely distressed public housing. The project for which we are breaking ground today represents an enormous step toward increasing the supply of affordable housing for all San Franciscans. San Francisco's commitment to community development and affordable housing is commendable. San Francisco's leadership provides a strong model that brings financial resources and solutions to address the critical issues that impact our citizens. Working families should not be forced to choose between housing, health care, food, and other basic needs. The 111th Congress is committed to addressing the housing needs of the American people. We will continue to work together in order to provide the real solutions that hardworking Americans deserve. Warm regards, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House. Thank you.
So, after that department head meeting that the mayor referred to, one of my first jobs was to work with Dwayne Jones to begin to have conversations with residents here at the Tenants Association about what the things were that the city could do to begin to improve things. And the first person that I met in that job was Tessie Esther, who has been, as I'm sure anybody who has worked in or around Hunters View knows, a tireless advocate for the residents here, and has worked as hard as anyone, if not harder, to make sure that the things that were promised were kept. And so I want to introduce Tessie Esther, who's the president of the Hunters View Tenants Association.
Good morning, everybody. I know everybody is waiting for me to blow everything up, but I'm just going to be truthful and honest. I want to thank everyone for allowing me to represent Hunters View Development. These are very crucial times, and the Hunters View community need to be observant and concerned. We are trying to create opportunity for all to stay here in Hunters View. Throughout the years, we have some families that moved up here in the 50s. And we have went through the slaughterhouse days when the calls got loose up here. I'm sure Espanola Jackson remember. A lot of the families came from the South, which we worked at the Hunters Point Shipyard, which provided many, many jobs up here for us. As we got older and grew up here, we had Espanola Jackson, Jewel Green to help guide us along about the things that we need in public housing. But right now, today, we didn't have so many residents that have died. We have our parents died, our kids died. We have suffered through that power plant, and we survived. We suffered through the Vietnam War, and some of us survived and came home. And now we had the drive-by shootings, which we lost many, many, many of our children. But all we did was pray and have faith in God for us to continue to look over us. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge some of the people that helped us up here. Brothers Against Guns, Sean Richardson, Pastor Alex, Sold Out Productions, Reverend Branner, Reverend Birch, where you at? Even the San Francisco Housing Authority. Power, they came up here and helped. And just to acknowledge some of the families that was up here all these years, we have been having a lot of issues that the residents been bringing to us about the jobs, about the return. We feel that the jobs are not really coming to the residents. I still have youth sitting in the basketball court. You promised us training. You promised jobs for my children up here, and we're not getting it. We're getting everybody else working up here, but the kids that live here and have suffered enough. We have suffered through the mold, the mildew, and we need jobs for them. Right now, right now? Okay, then. And I just want to speak out some names of some of the residents that have been here. Jewel Green, Espanola Jackson, Dorothy Edwards, Pancho and Maria Rodriguez, who's one of the first candy house up here, who saved a lot of kids' life for trying to sneak and go to the store. The Hughes, Ethel Shaw, Mary Monk, Mama Rose Garcia, the Branners. Let me see. As for the Legions, the Washingtons, Lyra and Laura Knight, even Lola Jackson, Vera Kennedy, Fleta Brown, the Hamptons, Lucille Hardy, Miss Alice Richardson, Laura Busby, and the list goes on and on and on. And a lot of our parents, a lot of our parents died. Gloria Zinn, a lot of our young youth died. Martell Peters. And as we move on to this next phase, we're asking the city to work with us, to help us continue to return, to help us. Help me get these kids off these corners and jobs. Help us to help your office give these kids some training so we can have some jobs. Like I say, my kids are still in the basketball court. I have everybody coming up here working, and that's not what you promised me, Mayor. And I want you to stick to your promise, and I know you will. And I know Fred is going to get right on this. I know Dominica is going to help me. I know Commissioner Gaines, I know she's going to do the darn thing. And I know, Mr. Alvarez, where you at? Okay then, Mr. Alvarez, I'm be looking to work closely with you. So I want to thank you guys, and the residents of Huntersville are looking forward to moving to their new homes. And most of all, I would like to thank the John Stewart, Divine and Gong, and Ridgepoint for taking the time for putting up with us. Thank you.
All right. Next, I want to bring up the housing commissioner, the Housing Authority Commissioner, Neola Gans. The Housing Authority has been working very hard to do things differently. Under Henry's leadership, things have improved vastly, and I think everyone can attest to the fact that you have a much more responsive, diligent Housing Authority. So I want to introduce Commissioner Gans to come up.
Good morning, everyone. Today is a great day for Huntersville and the residents here and for everyone. I would like to thank the Mayor Gavin Newsom, and Supervisor Sophie Maxwell for the Hope SF. I really look forward to the project going through and making sure that, as like Tessie said, that all our residents who are here be able to return back. Since Huntersville is the first redevelopment under Hope SF, I do look forward to the other developments that we have to go through this process as well. And I would like to say congratulations, Huntersville and the residents, and may God bless you all. Thank you.
Well, good morning, and thank you very much. I do have some bad news, Supervisor Maxwell. You're the second person this morning to have claimed the unit right up over there. I can bump you up ahead of Henry Alvarez for that unit, but you're both going to have to take a back seat to the residents who are actually going to be right up there when Block 4 is complete. We have a condo for you back over here, though, which you might want to look into later today. Speaking for the entire development team, I'd like to just express how excited and pleased we are to have reached this day and to be sharing it with so many great partners, supporters, colleagues, and friends. Huntersville Community Partners, which is made up of the John Stewart Company, Ridgepoint Nonprofit Housing Corporation, and Divine and Gong Incorporated, have a long history of building, revitalizing, and managing high-quality affordable housing throughout California. But we have a special commitment to Bayview Hunters Point. Starting with Ridgepoint's incorporation here locally over 40 years ago, through the renovation of 231 affordable housing units next door at Jackie Robinson and Ridgeview Apartments, all the way to today, the revitalization of Hunters View. We are committed to making Hunters View the best new neighborhood in Bayview Hunters Point, no, in all of San Francisco. And we are doing that under the city's leadership by going beyond just rebuilding the sticks and stucco, but by bringing new services, new community amenities to the site, working with the school district to revitalize our neighboring elementary school, Malcolm X Academy, by going beyond the sticks and stones, the bricks and mortar, to a comprehensive revitalization strategy and creation of a whole new mixed income, mixed use community here at Hunters View. And as you've already heard, this has been a true team effort, including the City, Housing Authority, School District, and Redevelopment Agency of San Francisco, the local and national philanthropic and financial sectors, the residents, our neighbors, and a wide-ranging team of local developers, consultants, engineers, architects, and contractors. Working together in a way that has never before been seen in San Francisco, this wide-ranging team is equal to the mammoth task of completely renewing Hunters View and reconnecting it to the physical and social fabric of San Francisco. We are very proud to be the first project in Mayor Newsom and Supervisor Maxwell's HOPE SF program, an innovative national model that will not only create a vibrant new mixed income community, but greatly enhance both the lives of current residents and the surrounding neighborhood as well. I wish I had time to personally thank everyone who's listed on the program, but one of the most important things that Jon Stewart ever taught me was not to take too long if you're the final speaker and people want to talk about jobs. So I will do a group thank you to everybody who is listed on the program, and just say a special thanks to Mayor Newsom, Speaker Pelosi, and Supervisor Maxwell for their leadership and vision, our partners at the Housing Authority, the city, and the agency for their technical, financial, and programmatic support, our funders for their money, especially those who came in early when HOPE SF was still just a gleam in the mayor's eye, to the residents for their ongoing guidance and wholehearted involvement in the process and their bravery to work with us as we work through the many issues and we rebuild their homes. And to my partners and the entire development team, especially Margaret Campbell, for all their hard work, much of which is yet to come. So thank you all very much for being here. Thank you for your support. On to the groundbreaking and onward and upward with Hunters View. Thank you.
Turn it over. Turn it over. Right? We got 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. There you go.
All right. Well done.
You got a sledgehammer?
Yeah, I'm going to say
Yeah, because we brought a bulldozer before you with me. We got the mayor.
No, you don't want to almost. You're doing the supervisor, keeping me honest.
We just got to sit him in there.
Well done.
All right. Good job.
I love it. That was too easy. Thanks. I wanted some real work. Come on.